watching The John Funk Show, and today is On Picture. I started making films to tell important stories and to create iconic visuals. It's the visuals that a lot of people focus on, and of all the arts in the seventh art, it's perhaps the visual or that dominates and is very impactful. If we're looking at this from like a 50,000 foot view, there's three areas to consider: plastics, mise-en-scène, and production design. You're never going to hear the former two on set, and people don't really care. But I do think if you want to master the medium and create a really important work of art, you need to understand all the details because they will influence other things down the line. So there's plastics and mise-en-scène. Plastics, essentially, I believe, if I recall correctly, comes from the French New Wave critic Andre Bazin, and it basically means moldable, shapeable elements. French New Wave, nobody talks about it, but it's important to understand that as a concept. It's different from mise-en-scène, which is a French phrase meaning to put into the scene, which is essentially like the arrangement of the plastic elements within the frame. And then production design is basically everything that you see on screen except for the actors. So that excludes the art of casting, the acting, the art of acting, costume, makeup, hair. And yes, it does also exclude lighting because that's part of cine, because, you know, the kino flows and all that, that's off screen. So everything that you see on screen, except for the actors, is production design. Give you an example of I was shooting a film with an actor. He wanted keys as a prop. When we get into the art of directing, I'll talk about how props are barometers and catalysts of dramatic action. Normally, what they do is they'd radio and get someone from production design to go to find the art truck and then see if they have something and then conjure something up, and then they find their way back to set, and then it's lunch. On a John Funk show, we don't do that. I took my keys out of my pocket, threw them at Sal Lopez, and I said, let's go. And, you know, the keys worked for him, and, you know, we got to the scene. So I saved us time and money. And my keys became part of the production design, part of props. Now, again, that isn't normally what you do, but, you know, it was a John Funk show, and I deliver on schedule and on budget, so I just kind of moved things along, and everybody was okay with it. You know, the prop department was okay with it, and whatever. Let's move on. But there are really strong examples of production design in the history of film that I will flag. Mad Max, I think, is a great franchise that uses elements of the previous world in this post-apocalyptic one, and so everything is recycled. And so if you look at the details of the production design in that film, something that looks like a normal material is actually repurposed from something completely different. And there's a whole backstory and a mythology there that was created for really strong visuals in Mad Max. You know, you look at a film like The Godfather and how, you know, oranges were used as kind of to hint that a character is about to die. Oranges, you know, used in the frame. Or in The Departed, the use of the X-shaped compositions for a similar effect, hinting somebody's, you know, not going to last long in the narrative. And you look at a film, obviously, like Barbie, which had really strong production design, or Blade Runner, both the original and the Ryan Gosling film. Those worlds have very strong production design and visuals, and even very grounded films, the ones that are elevated, have a lot of detail put into them. You know, for filmmakers to create some of the best pictures, I think that you need to know where your story fits within the broader context of art. So I have, you know, a Greek film, and it references some of the some frescoes from, you know, the Vatican. I have a Mexican film. It references the Codex Borgia. Nosferatu, clearly the people who worked on Nosferatu clearly know about, you know, German Expressionism, you know. So really understanding all the visual details that are a part of your film, and going in and doing the work in advance will improve the quality of everything down the line. You know, I'll just say, you know, one of my favorite shots in film history is from Ron by Akira Kurosawa. It's very, you know, Renaissance in its composition. There's just two clashes of armies, and they all have color coded, you know, costumes. And the hero, I believe his name is Lord Ichimonji. You know, he's coming down this castle and it's on fire, and he doesn't have his sword anymore. It's just he just has like a scabbard because he lost his sword in the battle, which is, you know, is a metaphor for lost power. You know, so it's dripping in symbolism and metaphor, and you know, he's coming down through the Z-axis, and you know, the camera movements are all motivated and timed perfectly. So it's one of those perfect shots. There's a lot of them in the history of cinema. You know, The Trial by Orson Welles, the Eyes Wide Shut, Gone with the Wind, and the use of color in that film. I think some of the visuals that Park Chan-wook has created, and Avatar with those floating islands. You know, there's some really, really strong shots or visuals in the history of the medium. And if you're a filmmaker, I encourage you to think about what's my one iconic image or several that really helps tell the story, because everything has to come from, you know, the story. You know, whether it be that chiaroscuro silhouette of Darth Vader and Luke on Bespin, or the Technicolor of, you know, Dorothy entering Oz. The art of picture needs to take into account all the details from your story, tie them all together, and if you do that, you can create a very strong image. So until our next video, thank you.